Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into, well, a really fascinating stack of sources. They touch on completely different corners of the technology world.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
We're talking the chaos around a big gaming console launch, the Nintendo Switch 2, then a look at a key tech conference focusing on Latin America.
And that piece on how robot spectacle, of all things, is being used for state messaging. Really interesting stuff there.
Definitely. Plus, we'll get into a new camera that's kind of blurring the lines between cinema and photography.
It's quite the journey, isn't it? From, your living room tech to global strategies and even political messaging via robots.
So our goal, as always, is to guide you through these sources, pull out the essentials, those aha moments.
Yeah, cut through the noise, help you get informed quickly without getting bogged down.
Exactly. Your shortcut to understanding what's really happening. Okay, let's dive in. First up, the Nintendo Switch 2. A lot of people waiting for this one.
And based on what PC Mag and Tom's Guide are reporting, the road to that June 5th launch, well, it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing.
It's putting it mildly. Pre-orders kicked off April 24th in the U.S., and, as expected, they just vanished almost instantly.
Right. But the real story, the thing causing all the frustration, seems to be these widespread reports of pre-orders being canceled.
By major U.S. retailers, yeah. GameStop, Target, Walmart.
Exactly. Both sources are highlighting this. The Switch subreddit, PC Mag mentioned that, and Tom's Guide has been tracking reports all week. It's a significant issue.
And what really got me from the PC Mag report, many people didn't even get an email.
No notification.
Nope. They only found out because they logged in to check their order status themselves, just gone.
Wow. PC Mag said they reached out to the retailers for comment, but nothing back yet.
Not at the time of the article, no. Which leaves the big question. Why?
Well, the initial thought was maybe payment method issues.
Yeah.
But then reports surfaced saying even fully paid in full orders were canceled.
So that theory doesn't quite hold up.
Doesn't seem like it. The more likely reason being floated now is that retailers just oversold, promised more consoles than Nintendo could actually give them.
Ouch. That's not a great look. Though PC Mag did mention one tiny detail. A Reddit user apparently got offered a $50 Walmart gift card.
Huh. Right. Iceman TK.
Yeah.
A $50 gift card. I mean, it's not the console, but
yeah,
it's something. Some attempt at compensation, I guess.
So for everyone who missed out or got canceled, any hope for launch day, June 5th?
It's not zero hope. Both sources suggest some possibility of finding one in store.
Okay.
PC Mag mentioned a deleted Reddit post, supposedly from a Target employee, showing maybe 40 consoles expected. And a YouTuber, Jake Randall, reported similar numbers for Target, 40-60 units, split between standard and the Mario Kart bundle.
Okay, so maybe hitting the stores is the play. Are other retailers confirming stock?
Yeah, Tom's Guide's live blog has broader confirmations. Target, Best Buy, and Walmart all say limited additional stock in-store on June 5th.
And GameStop?
GameStop confirmed extra stock, too, both in-store and online. And, get this, GameStop and Best Buy are apparently doing midnight launches.
Wow. For the truly dedicated, how did things look over in the UK? Was it the same chaos?
Tom's Guide said it was tricky initially there, too, but restocks have been maybe a bit more frequent, though often bundled.
Ah, the bundles.
Makes it pricier.
Exactly. Curry's apparently has some bundles available right now, according to the source.
Okay, so if you do manage to get one, what are we looking at price-wise? And any key hardware or game details?
Right. Tom's Guide has the standard console at $449 US. That's $395 UK. The bundle with Mario Kart World is $499 US, or $429 UK.
And new accessories coming, too.
Yep, quite a few listed in Tom's Guide. An updated Pro controller, the new Joy-Con 2 controllers, a camera peripheral, carrying case, AC adapter, even a Joy-Con 2-wheel thing.
And storage is changing, isn't it? Not just standard microSD anymore.
That's a key change. It's moving to microSD express cards. Higher capacity, potentially up to 2 TB, which means probably buying new, maybe more expensive cards if you want a lot of storage.
Almost certainly, yeah.
All right, the games. What's the launch looking like? Any big hitters confirmed soon?
Well, Mario Kart World is the pack-in, 24 drivers, drive anywhere mechanic, new power-ups. Sounds like classic Mario Kart fun.
Then Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong Bonanza, July 17th, features terrain smashing. And then there's Street Fighter 6, which is interesting, listed as a Switch 2 exclusive.
An exclusive for Street Fighter 6 on Nintendo.
Yeah, 26 characters, 20 stages, plus specific modes like local wireless one-on-one, avatar matches. That's pretty notable for a major third-party fighter.
Definitely. And we're seeing enhanced ports of older games, too.
Yes, and some sound like significant upgrades. Kirby and the Forgotten Land Starcross world gets better visuals, performance boosts, HDR, and a jump from 30 to 60 frames per second.
Nice. What about resolution?
1080p, handheld, 1440p, docked for Kirby.
And the Zelda.
Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition also gets visual and performance bumps.
Plus that Zelda Notes app thing.
Yeah, voice navigation, memories, item sharing. Seems like a neat integration.
And I saw Pokemon mentioned in the sources, too, from GameSpot and Pokemon Press.
Right, Pokemon Legends.
Yeah.
Z-Aids confirmed for October 16th, and there's going to be a specific Switch 2 edition launching alongside it.
With upgrades.
Improved graphics and frame rates, yeah. And interestingly, if you buy the original Switch version, there'll be an option to purchase an upgrade to the Switch 2 edition later.
That's a decent software start. What about playing old Switch games? Backward compatibility.
Tom's Guide mentioned Nintendo updated a list. Some original games might have issues. And for things like Ring Fit Adventure, you'll still need the original Joy-Cons.
Okay. Digging into some finer hardware points. Something about mice.
Yeah, this was slightly unexpected from Tom's Guide. The Switch 2 will apparently support regular USB mice, not just whatever mouse mode is supposedly in the new Joy-Con 2s.
Why would they do that?
Well, the source mentioned that early hands-on impressions found the Joy-Con mouse mode felt a bit clunky. So maybe USB mouse support is a backup, or for specific games or apps.
Interesting. And overall hands-on impressions from that source, what was the vibe?
The main takeaway seemed to be that Nintendo nailed the fundamentals. The core system feels good, even if some new additions, like that mouse mode, felt a bit less polished in early tests.
Gotcha. And one last thing from Tom's Guide. A rumor via Bloomberg.
Ah, yes. The Bloomberg report suggests Samsung is pushing Nintendo, trying to get them to use OLED panels in a future version of the Switch 2.
So an OLED model might come later, but not at launch.
Exactly. Not part of this initial June 5th release.
Okay. So the Switch 2 launch, high demand, supply issues, cancellations, but also some exciting hardware and software potential. Let's shift gears completely now, from consumer tech hype to the future of connectivity, M360 LATAM 2025.
Right, this event covered by BTW Media. It's a pretty significant gathering, focused squarely on the digital future of Latin America.
Tell us about it. What exactly is M360 LATAM? Who's there?
It's a big industry conference in Mexico City, May 28th, 29th, 2025. It pulls together over 1,200 professionals, think telecom execs, data center folks, cloud service providers, basically the people building the digital infrastructure for the region.
And what are the hot topics? What are they discussing?
The main focus, according to BTW Media, is really on AI, IoT, the Internet of Things, and 5G. The key thing isn't just that they're talking about these, but how they're integrating them into the core networks across Latin America.
Any big names speaking? CEOs?
Yeah. The source mentioned some heavy hitters. Daniel Hosh, CEO of America Mobile, Monica Aspe, CEO of AT&T Mexico. Their presence signals the priorities. The future of connectivity, integrating AI into telecom, and importantly, strategies for digital inclusion, bridging that digital divide.
It's not just high-level talks, though, right? Are there more practical sessions? Networking?
Absolutely. They have workshops digging into specifics. BTW Media mentioned sessions like real impact of 5G and AI and green tech for growth.
Green tech. Interesting focus.
Yeah, it shows they're thinking not just about rolling out tech, but also its broader societal and environmental footprint. And yes, lots of focus on networking, collaboration, panels. It's designed for people to connect.
Sounds like where the big plans for regional infrastructure get hammered out.
That seems to be the idea. It's about the big picture, how tech weaves into life and business across Latin America. They even have the GSMA M360 LATAM Awards at the end, recognizing progress.
Okay, so from console supply chains and telecom strategy, we pivot again. This one is really fascinating. Using robots for state communication. This is from the China Media Project.
Yeah, this source digs into how China is strategically using technology displays, specifically with humanoid robots, as a form of state communication, soft power projection, basically.
And it kicks off with a pretty unusual event.
It really does. China Media Group, which the source points out is state-run media under the CCP's Central Propaganda Department, staged what they call the world's first humanoid robot boxing competition back on May 25th.
Robot boxing. Seriously. It sounds like pure entertainment. Sci-fi stuff.
It featured these G1 robots from a company called Unitree, broadcast live on CCTV. But the China Media Project article argues it's the latest in a series of these kinds of sporting robot events by state media.
So the argument is There's more going on here than just fun and games. What's the underlying goal?
The key insight from the article is that robots are, well, visually appealing, right? They look futuristic, they're marketable, they generate viral content easily, and crucially, they do all this without looking like heavy state propaganda.
Ah, okay. So it's tech showmanship.
Exactly. Showing off China's supposed tech prowess in a way that's attractive, both domestically and, importantly, overseas.
Did international media bite? Did they cover the robot boxing?
Oh, yeah. The source says major outlets like the BBC, NBC, Al Jazeera covered it enthusiastically. The article actually described this as them taking the bait.
Taking the bait.
Yeah, the source argues this kind of perhaps uncritical coverage just paved the way for yet more soft state propaganda.
And the article connects this specifically to communication about Taiwan.
This is where the strategic angle gets really sharp. Apparently, some pan-blue-leaning media outlets in Taiwan, see Thai News, China Times, TVBS, E! Today, iTelevision, gave it really positive coverage, called it a breakthrough moment for China.
And then Chinese state media ran with that.
You got it. They amplified that specific Taiwan coverage, presenting it as proof of cross-strait admiration for mainland development, this leaping development. And they explicitly linked that to the narrative of the inevitability of unification.
Wow, that's quite a leap from robot boxing to unification. Is there a specific example of how they did that?
Yes, CMG's own show, Look at the Taiwan Strait, highlighted this. They quoted a Beijing University teacher from Taiwan, Chen Wencheng. The article notes his ties to a state-sponsored group under the CCP's United Front Work Department.
Okay.
And he was quoted saying young Taiwanese yearn for mainland technology and hope for similar robot events on Taiwan Island. It's using supposed external validation to push a political narrative.
A very deliberate connection.
Very. And the article contrasts this with how other Taiwanese media covered robotics, like a story about elementary school kids winning a competition in the U.S., much more focused on education, basic parts, not spectacle.
This whole approach, using seemingly fun tech for strategic messaging, does it fit into a known Chinese strategy?
It absolutely does, according to the China Media Project. They connected directly to Xi Jinping's call back in May 2021 for China to project a credible, lovable, and respectable image, the so-called cuteness strategy.
Right, moving away from the wolf warrior diplomacy.
Exactly. After that approach kind of backfired and damaged China's image internationally. The idea is that culture and tech are softer ways to engage foreign audiences.
And the goal is?
A citing government document talks about constructing multi-channel, three-dimensional international communication patterns, showcasing tech achievements, partly to demonstrate the superiority of their political system. Robot competitions fit perfectly. They seem apolitical but serve that dual purpose.
So we should expect more robot sports.
The source says CMG plans more football, basketball. And Chinese tech giants are pouring money into embodied intelligence companies. The article concludes that the enthusiastic media coverage suggests this cute tech approach to sharp power might actually be pretty effective, especially via social media.
It's really something to think about. How tech can be used for influence in ways you might not expect. Okay, one more gear shift. From statecraft robots to tools for creators. The Sony FX2 camera.
Right. This one was reviewed by Petapixel and featured by Globe Newswire B&H. It's Sony's latest compact cinema-line camera, the FX2, and it's positioned interestingly a cinema camera first, but one that handles photography surprisingly well. Sort of a successor to the FX3, but taking a different direction.
Okay, let's get into the tech. What are the core specs that jump out from the reviews?
Well, at its core is a 33-megapixel full-frame sensor, back-illuminated. It's actually the same sensor that's in Sony's hybrid cameras, like the A7IV and A7C II.
So good for photos and video.
That's the idea. It allows for really sharp 4K video because it oversamples, takes data from the full 7K sensor and shrinks it down. That gives you better detail, but it's limited to 30 frames per second for that full-frame oversampled 4K.
What about other video modes? Can it do higher frame rates?
Yeah, it's built for serious video work. It has a built-in cooling fan, which is key. It means you can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second continuously without overheating, which is a big problem for many smaller cameras.
Okay, that fan is a big deal for long takes.
Huge deal. It also does full HD up to 120 fps, and internally, it records DCI 4K in 10-bit 4.2.2.
Okay, break down 10-bit 4.2.2 for us again. Why does that matter?
Good question. Basically, it means the camera is capturing a ton more color information compared to standard 8-bit video. This gives you much more flexibility in post-production when you're color grading or adjusting exposure. Your image won't fall apart or show weird banding. especially if you're shooting in log profiles like S-Log3.
And speaking of S-Log3, the reviews mentioned dual base ISO. How does that help?
Right, another pro video feature. Dual base ISO means the sensor has two optimal sensitivity points. ISO 800 and 4000 in S-Log3 on the FX2, where noise is minimized. So if you're shooting in low light, you can jump to ISO 4000 and get a much cleaner image than just cranking up the ISO on a camera with one base ISO. It helps maintain that really wide dynamic range, over 15 stops according to the reviews.
Autofocus is always critical, especially for solo shooters or gimbal work. How's the FX2?
It's got Sony's latest AI-powered system with a dedicated AI chip. This makes a big difference for recognizing subjects, people, animals, cars in real time. IAF is supposedly 30% better than the FX3, FX30. Petapixel flat out called the AF extremely reliable.
And stabilization for handheld.
It has 5-axis IBIS, in-body stabilization, which is apparently improved over the A7 IV. Plus it has the active steady shot modes. The really strong one is dynamic active steady shot. It uses AI to smooth out walking shots incredibly well.
Still the catch, right?
But yeah, there's a catch. Petapixel notes that it achieves that smoothness with a massive crop into the image, so you lose a lot of your frame width.
Okay. Now, what makes this FX2 really different, especially for a cinema camera, is the photography side. What's surprising?
The biggest surprise is the mechanical shutter for stills. Most cinema cameras just have electronic shutters. But the FX2 brings back a mechanical electronic first curtain specifically to deal with rolling shutter artifacts in photos.
That jello effect when you pan quickly.
Exactly. The mechanical shutter avoids that for stills and lets you sync flashes up to 1160s. Petapixel thinks this was added specifically for photographers working on film sets, though the fully electronic shutter mode still has pretty bad rolling shutter for photos.
And you can match the look between video and stills more easily.
Yeah, this is neat. You can shoot JPEGs or HEIs using the S-Log3 profile and even apply LUPs, lookup tables, in camera. So your stills can have the same basic color grade or look as your log video footage right out of the camera. Helps keep things consistent. Plus, there's a physical switch to flip between photo and video modes easily.
What about the body itself? Handling, ergonomics, any standout features or quirks?
The big addition is the built-in electronic viewfinder, the EVF. First time for an FX camera. It's a 3.68 million dot OLED, tilts up 90 degrees. Petapixel said it's comfortable, but things mounted on the hot shoe might block its full tilt range.
And the back screen, is it good?
It's a 3-inch, tiltable, fully articulating touchscreen, which is great for flexibility. But Petapixel really pointed out the resolution is low, only about 1 million dots.
Meaning
it's hard to be sure about critical focus just by looking at the screen. You often have to punch in, digitally zoom to check focus accurately. On the plus side, it uses the BG6 interface from Sony's high-end cinema cameras, which simplifies the main screen.
How does it feel in the hand?
The grip is improved, deeper, but still relatively thin, good even with big lenses. It weighs about 24 ounces, so decent for handheld or gimbals. It has those useful 14-inch mounting points like the FX3. One small gripe from Petapixel was the top AF joystick can be hard to reach when using the EVF.
Connectivity, ports, storage.
Loads of connections, HDMI, USB-C, LAN, Wi-Fi, multi-interface shoe. But Petapixel was a bit critical of the fiddly plastic port covers, worried about weather sealing. And the mic headphone jacks are totally exposed.
Storage.
It has one CF Express Type A slot, which also takes SD cards, plus a second dedicated SD slot. You only really need the expensive CF Express A cards for the absolute highest quality modes. Petapixel says most recording works fine on a good V90 SD card.
Battery life, what's typical?
Uses the standard Sony MPSZ100 battery, like most Sony Alpha cameras. The reviews suggest you get just over an hour of recording per charge, typically.
So putting it all together, how does the FX2 stack up against, say, the cheaper Sony A7 AV?
Petapixel argues the FX2 justifies its higher price over the A7 IV if video is your main thing. You get the fan for no overheating, much better stabilization with dynamic active, the cinema interface stuff, better AI autofocus, big video advantages.
But the A7 IV is still a great camera.
For sure. But the FX2 is presented as a definite step up for dedicated video shooters, assuming rolling shutter isn't your biggest enemy.
And compared to the FX3, the camera it sort of replaces?
It's a trade-off. The FX3 has a faster sensor, lower resolution, which means it's better for fast action video. It can do full-width 4K 60p and cropped 4K 120p with less rolling shutter. The FX2 struggles more with rolling shutter in its best 4K modes because of the higher res sensor.
But the FX2 has advantages.
Big ones. It's a much better stills camera, 33 MP versus 12 MP, has the superior AI autofocus, and crucially, it has that built-in EVF that the FX3 lacks entirely.
So the choice depends on priorities.
Exactly. FX3 for fast-action video where rolling shutter is critical.
Right.
FX2 if you need better photos, want the best AF, need an EVF, and your subjects aren't causing major rolling shutter issues in oversampled 4K.
Any mention of non-Sony competitors?
Yeah, Petapixel briefly mentioned cameras like the Nikon Z6 III or Panasonic S1 II as alternatives,
Yeah.
depending if you need things like internal RAW video. But they still give Sony the edge for overall autofocus reliability, especially with that AI chip.
So who's the target audience here, ultimately?
Based on the reviews, it seems like it's for Sony shooters who primarily shoot video, maybe do some serious photography on the side, value the EVF and top-tier autofocus, need long recording times without overheating, and whose work isn't constantly plagued by rolling shutter artifacts. If that's you, it looks compelling. If not, the FX3 or competitors might be better fits.
Wow, okay. That was a seriously wide-ranging deep dive today. We went from the trials and tribulations of getting a new game console.
The Switch 2 saga, yeah. Consumer hype versus reality.
Right. Then we looked at industry leaders planning the digital future for Latin America. Very different scale.
Totally. And then the really unexpected angle robots as statecraft. How tech spectacle can serve strategic narratives.
That was eye-opening. And finally, digging into the nuts and bolts of a camera trying to bridge two worlds, cinema and photo.
It really shows how tech touches everything, doesn't it? Market forces, global strategy, creative tools, even political influence. Seeing these sources together highlight some of those underlying connections.
Absolutely. And it leaves us, and you, with something to think about, maybe. We saw the frustration around consumer tech availability, how industries plan digital futures, and how even robot boxing can be part of a state communication plan.
So, as tech gets deeper into everything we do, how does thinking of the intent behind it all, how it's presented, marketed, made available, even why it's being shown, how does that change the way you see the tech news flooding your feed every day?
A question to ponder. We'll leave it there for this deep dive.